Yo guys, and welcome to the Kyalami track guide. Today we will be having a look at a lap around Kyalami with the Aston Martin, and I'm sure that this was a very good lap of mine, need to say so. It was at, I think, 21 degrees, so quite cold once again, but that was really to my liking how it went. And I would say we immediately start in with the lap for this week's guide. Getting all the momentum we can for that lap. Little wall bang. That was quite unnecessary, but didn't cause any damage. So, for turn 1, we brake a bit before the 100-meter board. With the Aston at least. With some other cars like the Porsche, you may be able to brake at 100, but with most of the cars it can also make sense to just brake a few meters earlier, that you don't just run wide or get some rear locking, because that can easily happen due to the elevation that thing has here. Like you see, it's a little off cambered, and that can really make the rear step out, and we don't really want that, I would say. So, braking before 100, you can easily also let it roll a little into the corner. That's no problem and won't cost a lot of time, but still a little bit. So that braking point was quite fine. You see, slowly releasing the brakes and on the throttle. Like hitting the throttle as early as possible, facing 90 degrees to the next corner basically. We jump onto the throttle and then get out. That is like this with any car basically. In the Beamer the exit may be second gear, but yeah, it should be first with most of the cars. The next corner is quite self-explanatory, not too hard to take. We go to the left a little bit, that we can take that flat out. You see, it's like an S corner shape. That curb we don't really want to take a lot, because you see that piece of elevation, like there's a cut or a lift in the middle of the curb which is higher than the left and the right side, and if we hit that little kink of elevation with our tire, we will jump a little bit, and that is not quite what we would want for a good lap. So we just take that curb a little and grind it a bit, staying full throttle. Don't go close to that, because we want to take the momentum through this. So we go out while braking. That is a very tricky corner. At the end of the sausage we start braking and then slowly release it into full throttle again. That looks quite clean, to be honest, because you need to have very clean inputs to not have rather the front understeering or the rear oversteering, because it is quite steep uphill too. So we go to the right outside. That was not intended. We go to the right outside and then have a steering input to the left here, just where that white line begins. So see where that markers end and where the line begins. We start steering a little. You see the inputs, not a lot of braking, and then not a lot of steering too at that point. And then we hit the throttle, start to steer more, go over that curb, full throttle over this. Maybe in one run we can watch it, the combination. Like, that is really hard to take in a clean line, but it is very rewarding in terms of time if you can do it. So that corner is quite easy, honestly. We brake around at the 50-meter board, like here, a bit later, and then roll. and hit the throttle. So we don't really want to lift off the throttle completely, because that will make us lose the front end. Some cars are even understeerier than the Aston, like the Ford is gonna be tough around here. On the other hand, the Porsche or Audi, if you take these, you will get a lot of oversteer if you lift off the throttle, because the rear is gonna step out. So as general rule, the front engine cars will understeer and the rear engine cars will oversteer. The Mercedes will likely do both, and it is quite mid-engined. Like, rear engine is mid-engine and rear engine in that comparison, and the Mercedes has its engine likely quite far to the center of the car and not here where the Aston has it. Like, the Aston has it quite far to the bonnet, like not visible here, but it is quite far to the front end, and therefore it will understeer if we lift off the throttle. So our braking input is one input, quite heavy, and then a little correction-ish things until we hit the throttle. We can go further out here, no problem, as long as our right tire doesn't leave that curb. For the next corner, that corner is quite crucial too, because if we screw up that corner, the next section is gonna be completely off-centered with the lines and stuff. So with the good corner we took here, we're gonna go to the right, brake at 50, use as much track as we can get. Yeah, like that's really close. Steer at the beginning of the red and white curb. Little oversteer here, but that is fine, because I could stick to it. You can go over that a little, but don't lift off the throttle. Trust me, you're gonna land in the wall if you lift off, because your car is gonna be thrown around, and that's why we just stay on throttle quite consistently and then floor it. For the next corner, combination actually, we brake at the beginning of the red and white. Take that with most cars. With the Ferrari, I would maybe not do it. With the Ford, for example, you can completely send it over there. Like with the Aston, you have to be a little careful, as it is quite dangerous over the curbs at all, like everywhere. But generally, you're gonna be fine if you slowly start testing if you can take it or nah. Because the suspension has to do some real hard work. You see that curb is really high, just like the one in turn 2, and that's why we take it carefully and keep throttling. Then a little lift off, full throttle again over the curb. We need to take that curb here, because if not, we will need to lift more and have less speed here. So in one rush, steer, throttle, lift off, throttle, and out as far as you can without invalidating it. Very tricky thing on that bricks, you can invalidate it on the last line basically. If you go out too far, you're gonna invalidate it. Why ever? That corner has no braking point. It's dangerous, it's not likable, it is just stupid. So we brake somewhere close after that 50 board, after that sign on the road we brake. And try to brake in as straight as possible line. See, the steering is almost centered. And we brake in a very straight line. Trail brake in 2 and then hit the throttle. See, throttle here already. Once again 90 degrees to the next corner. And send it out. That corner is quite self-explanatory, but it is hard to hit. Because you may also end up in the ABS if you want to go to the apex before having the speed for the corner. That is easily full throttle. And now the same thing as on the hill. We, even though the corner is like a bit bent in the braking zone also, try to brake in quite a straight line at a bit before 100. Like, brake. Go down to first gear. Also with the Ferrari, I think. And throttle very early, like as early as possible. We throttle before hitting the curb, you see. That's like crazy early, facing the palm trees and the crowd. And that without being in a Mustang though. So, hit full throttle, go out to the left. And for the penultimate corner, we go to the left as far as possible. You see, almost scraping the grass off the ground here. Don't hit the grass though, that is not gonna have the most positive effect on the behavior of your car. But generally speaking, we want to take as much of the track as we can get. Have one braking input. Some people roll it through here. I don't really like that because it feels so indirect, like you don't even have the control over the car because the car just decides if it wants to roll or wants to brake out with the rear. So we just decide to brake here a little bit once, like one input, and then hit the throttle again. We can take that grass, no problem. Don't take too much though, if you don't want to invalidate your lap. And then we brake before 50 with the Porsche or maybe the Ferrari. You can brake at 50, but on the other hand, that cars also have a lot of power in the first gear. The Aston doesn't, so we want to put a bit of our energy on the exit, and therefore we brake a few meters earlier and trail into that, like that we hit the curb, but we throttle before doing it, or while doing it at least, and then have a little slingshot effect of the curb throwing us out of the corner. That is really interesting. Like, boom. And that is one lap around Kyalami. That was a 39.605 at 21 degrees, and that is quite a good lap.